This is called Back to Square One. During the summer of Euro 96, it felt like more than just 11 men trying to get the ball between the sticks. Venables impressed us boss. Everybody, from white middle class mums to people of colour, started to get behind the cross. It was almost somehow like we were beginning to get the flag back from images of the NF and POW. Momentarily, I pondered whether even a lefty like me might consider one day hanging the flag up permanently. Reading her storybook while sat on my knee, my mixed-race daughter saw something that filled her face with glee. It read, "African princesses didn't just sit around looking pretty." Although they achieved that too, just not in the conventional way that's depicted in Disney. They would lead their tribes to battle and earn their crown by securing victory. When it came to St. George's Day, I'd talk about the story of a dragon-slaying knight. While on English cultural values, I tried to shed some light. For the time being, I was happy to shield my daughter from non-fictional origins of Muslim and Jewish slaughter. When my second-born had an international day at her school, she walked the catwalk proudly draped in her Ugandan flag. During major football tournaments, Carr would grow England ears. Defeat on penalty is the only snag. We were here first, I'll say it, it's a free country. The Jamaican man continued. You're just a pygmy, the object of his wrath. A young West African man replied by sucking his teeth, a demonstration to show that he was above the beef. He then retorted, "You're a very silly man." And then Auntie with her shopping bag went between them, demonstrating it was just an everyday flash in the pan. At school, while waiting to take the test, my schoolmate had said, "You're going to Brixton, hope you've got a bulletproof vest." But as I took a right off the main road, I was greeted with a wondrous sensory overload. A small stall was selling vinyl and blasting out the latest reggae offering, competing with a preacher on the corner, shouting, "London, repent for your sin!" The smell was overwhelming, from the stall selling roasted maize to the yardies on the grass next to the tube, playing dominoes in a cloud of purple haze. The fishmongers and the butchers seemed to stock everything, all fresh and looking fine. I wondered how that was possible. Not too many oceans and farms in SW9. The array of restaurants and cafes I really couldn't choose. Proprietors tried to beckon me. "Yes, brother, yes, my G." But eventually I settled for a chickpea roti. Definitely no veggie, but I tried in vain to savour every bite. I'm not lying when I said it was the best food I'd tasted in my life. As I made my way back to the station, for I was just a tourist, the preacher, deciding he'd had enough of fire and brimstone, instead bellowed, "Give your life to Jesus if you want life in all its fullness." These days, like much of London, Brixton's full of hipsters and yuppies, not one for the purist. But back then, life in all its fullness was what Brixton afforded. You better be careful, some people there, they've never seen a black in their life. A work colleague warned me on the eve of a trip to rural Wales with my kids and my wife. "Yeah, they're nationalists up there, they don't like the English too." Gemma from accounts with a helpful intervention before the conversation was through. But once there, when we ventured into the lanes, the people who stopped to greet us were so friendly you could have thought we were on first names. The owner of the caravan had a daughter the same age as mine. They became instant besties, if only for a time. I watched them running amongst the rabbits and the hens as I fried my bacon complete with the rhyme. The owner too was lovely. She didn't over-pry, except when it came up in conversation naturally. It just spoke out of the natural pleasantness of her personality. Not in that overly try-hard way where people almost smother. You could say a good example of somebody who really doesn't see colour. As day turned to night, I spotted an old chapel which could only be viewed through the car's headlight. Once it would have been a community haven where people went for their spiritual health. but the unkempt graves and overgrown grass suggested that these days the community had other ways that they could to spend their wealth. Above the once grand wooden door, there stood a plaque which read, "Love thy neighbour as you love yourself." As my kids argued with their mum about whether we were going to listen to Celine Dion or Fuse ODG vocals, I thought an appropriate mantra still lived out by the locals. 2025. My third born really loves to read, but mainly at night, largely as a tactic to allow her bedtime to slide. During the day, like most of her generation would seem, she's more interested in scheming so that she can be on a screen. But on this particular day, she'd gone old school, attentively writing in her drawing book. She was listing every flag of the world, didn't care how long it took. Eventually, she reached England, looking ever so slightly shook. And then a question posed that she couldn't resist. "Dad, is the England flag racist?" "I'm not sure if we should wave the flag at the next World Cup. Do you think people will be able to tell the difference between them and us?" At that point, I realised she'd made a mistake with the colours of Venezuela. And ever the perfectionist, in anger she screwed up the whole paper. Frustrated, she shouted, I'm so dumb. Now I'm right back to square one." But did we ever leave it? Or were we just shielded at best? I ponder as I notice a protester on the news screen, dressed head to toe in traditional crusade vest.